Greetings and welcome each one of you once again for our daily devotion, our in-depth study into the book of Proverbs as we are meditating upon the writings of the wise man listed for us, compiled in Proverbs chapter 27. These words that give us life and put us on the path of righteousness. Reading verse 1 of chapter 27. We are beginning a new chapter. The Proverbs collected in this chapter deal with future, how we are to plan for the future, and also it deals with how as God's people are to receive honor, how they are to participate in this experience of receiving honor. Let me read verse 1 and 2 for our meditation today. Verse 1, do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth. Verse 2, let another man praise you and not your own mouth, a stranger and not your own lips. The wise man, after his messages that he has given to us concerning a lazy person, a foolish person, he is now telling us about, as God's people receiving divine wisdom, how we should avoid certain things in our life's journey. Telling us not to boast. Trying to be presumptuous about the future is a sure caution for many of us. Knowing future is not within the realms of human activity. Human beings are limited to, in their knowledge that God has given to them, how to live this day. But we have the benefit of the past, which can shed light upon how we should live in the present time. The past is, in a way, a lesson book for us to help us to follow in ways that would lead us to avoid our shortcomings and failures in the past and to look to the future, that our present, in a way, reflects upon our past. But who can claim to know the future? It is only God. God who is omnipotent. He is all powerful. He is omniscient. He knows all things. He is an all-wise God. It is God alone who is the creator of this universe, able to know the future. God has loved us so much that He reveals to us the future even before it happens, before time. Excuse me. Future that God reveals to us about as prophecy can help us to prepare ourselves for the future. While we live in the present, we have the advantage of God who knows the future, who reveals to us, his people, before time, what should come to pass, so that we may be made ready. And so it is only God who, knowing the future, warns us before time how we should be ready, how we should face the future. No human being can tell the future. We may, at the best, make a guess, an intelligent guess of how things may shape up in the future, but with absolutely no certainty. Well, with the God given wisdom and seeing how things happen in our past, we may use this heavenly wisdom to prepare ourselves for a future that we do not know, but with certain expectations, but with no certainty, unless God has made himself known to us. But somehow it has become the prerogative which is God's to know the future. Somehow human beings take credit in trying to forecast, to predict, and sometimes even arrogantly declare what is to take place in the future. Well, there are certain things that probably we with human intelligence can say. For you see the sun rising and setting every day, and you can tell tomorrow the sun will rise and set. But that is really no great knowledge of certainty, but except an observation which is repeating itself, and so we can intelligently make a guess. But no one could ever arrogantly take credit, for no one knows what a day holds for us. This teaches us some invaluable lessons. Knowing well that we have no knowledge of the future, it only makes us more humble to depend upon God who knows the future. And what he has revealed for us is for our benefit. But this humble attitude towards the future is what makes us prepared for the future. It is contrary to someone who boasts, who arrogantly claims, and as it were, states with certainty what is going to happen in the future. Even if it should happen as somebody has foreseen or has said would happen, no credit to the one human being who may make such intelligent guess. For the future is all in God's prerogative. Only God has the ability to see and know the future. But this keeps us even humble, for you do not know what tomorrow holds for you. Until God, who has told us before time what will happen, and see that same happening, this confirms to us faith in a God who has all knowledge even of the future, letting us know so that we may be prepared. For James talks about such humility in chapter 4, verse 13 to 16. James chapter 4, verse 13 to 16. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? Is it even a vapor that appears for a little time and vanishes away? Instead, you ought to say, we ought to say that it is God who does all things according to his goodwill and pleasure. It is not within any of our right. It is not within our boastful experience. For humans, the future is uncertain. You can never guarantee or boast about it. For our life is only fragile. And events that happen unexpectedly can drastically change our circumstances. So let us be humble about the uncertainty of what the future holds for us. We are also warned not to be boastful and warns against presumption, never to be overconfident. It is true in life we need to make plans for the future. But making plans for the future is different from overconfident assumptions that as if you have power to control the future and the outcome of what happens. Planning helps to face the future successfully. What plans you have can be accomplished with good planning. But good planning does not ensure control over the future. Anything may happen on the way. Uncertainties will crop up and things can change. Situations and circumstances alter. And so this verse is teaching us to put away all kinds of arrogance. And some people who may be ignorant that it is God who is ultimately in control. Instead, it calls for us and encourages us a humble attitude, acknowledging our limited knowledge and our total reliance on God, to trust Him for what is to happen in the future. This certainly is how we as God's people are to think and plan for the future. Planning is good, but it should give us no pride or arrogance anticipating of what the future holds for us. With our human fallibility, we cannot predict. We may sometimes tell with some amount of confirmation that what can happen according to the way how you have planned. And therefore, when you hear sometimes people telling about the future, you may have heard Muslims speaking to each other, and when they would want to tell about anything they plan for the future, they will always end with the phrase inshallah, which means if Allah wills. Well, even as those we trust in God's almighty power of the future, we can only live everything into God's hands. God's actions are independent, but we human beings are dependent, and we are in no way able to predict. So, as a wise person, we are to make plans. Number of times, the wise man in Proverbs reminded us in chapter 16, verse 3, commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. It is only when we commit our works into God's hands can our plans be established. Plans are what we work within the framework, keeping God in the picture and committing everything for God to let it happen. As we saw also in Proverbs 20, verse 18, plans are established by counsel. By wise guidance, wage war. When a group of people would sit and discuss among themselves, make plans guided by wisdom and established by counsel, then we can be certain what we plan can be accomplished. But all things, let's remember, is in God's will. It is only as we trust in God. The Hebrew word that is used and to be translated as boasting, also is rendered as praise. But we know boasting is of human nature, where you seek for yourself and your abilities to accomplish what you plan. Boasting is selfish, seeing yourself as the center and the cause for your success. But praise, in other chapters, and especially in this chapter that we see the word praise, reminds us of our dependence upon God and showing it is because of God that we're able to do all things. And so, truly, in thinking about future, we should commit our ways to God and to let God's will be done, and never to take credit for ourselves. Never praise yourself for what has not yet been accomplished. Never praise yourself for what has not been accomplished. This common English statement warns us, don't count your chickens before they are hatched. What guarantee it is that if you have put 10 eggs for hatching, that all 10 chicks would come out of each egg. It could happen that maybe one of the eggs would be spoiled and would not give rise to a chicken. And so our human minds should only be to accept what God has made plans for us, and never to stake things with such absolute guarantee, for it is only God who is able to do this. For James, we have seen wonders. You do not know what tomorrow will bring. Chapter 4, verse 14. This same verse tells us that life is not only uncertain, but it is also very brief. Our human life is brief and uncertain, for we have to totally depend upon God, who gives life continuously, every moment by moment. Life from God extends to us. Our life is uncertain. It is only because God is, we are alive. And about the future, it is only God who knows the future. And if God wills, we will live and do this or that. This should be a right attitude for us. Because God's will, I can accomplish what I have planned. This is certainly a wonderful proverb that the wise man is reminding us how we should never be boastful, never to take credit for yourself in all arrogance, and that we should be careful when we praise God and not for your own self. Praise is when others speak to us and not when we do it for ourselves. David tells us in Psalm 30, verse 6 and 7, Psalm chapter 30, verse 6 and 7, now in my prosperity I shall never be moved. Lord, by your favor, you have made my mountain stand strong. You hide your face, and I was troubled. David is expressing his inability. If it was not for God, he could really be a nobody. Certainly, we have to acknowledge God, for he is the one who speaks from behind the veil. This veil that comes between us and tomorrow, for we cannot see beyond where we are, but we are thankful that it is only because of God that we can do all things. The proverb in verse 2 tells us about how we should desist from praising ourselves. It should be someone else who should praise you and not you yourself. Stay away from such kind of self-exaltation, self-promotion, in whatever forms it appears, and especially in these modern days with modern technology, we see many avenues, opportunities to praise ourselves. We see people posting in the Facebook or in WhatsApp or in Twitter or whatever may be, what little they have done, even their private things, they post upon social media. This is simply to gain popularity, simply to receive accolades from others. But these are simply futile. As a saying, a fool's name is written all over the place. For those who do with sincerity and humility, it is God who knows all things. It is God who sees all things, and God will reward us. We do not need to publish ourselves. We do not need to make ourselves a spectacle to the world. Rather, this proverb says, a stranger is one who should speak for you, not your own lips, self glorification, or somebody whom you have impressed, whom you have appointed to speak on your behalf. As they say, if you cannot blow your own trumpet, you may ask somebody else to do it. But really, the one who can say anything about you should be a stranger. never by our own lips. When people see you, know you, or who hear you, or come to understand you, these are the ones who should be able to say and words of honor to you. As a German proverb says, self praise stinks, friends' praise limps, strangers' praise rings. If there's any praise that you should seek for, should be from strangers who may praise you and speak about you, but not a friend who is trying to impress you, or not your own words that you use to praise yourself. We have to be cautious. We have to be careful of such kind of praise which we many times yield to, thus simply trying to bring ourselves into the limelight, and thus by doing it, your value of validation from others, your true worth and character need not ever be recognized by those who you know or by your own selves, but when it is acknowledged by somebody who does not ever know you. This proverb is telling us and warning us against self promotion, self praise. This is another form of arrogance and self serving. You hear people talk about, I have done this, I have done this, forgetting that there is a mighty power above who is the one to receive praise and all honor and glory, and never our own ways. Praise from strangers is certainly meaningful than you revealing by your own self or you appoint somebody to do it. These two verses tell us very clearly never to promote self, never to allow self promotion to exalt you. But our life should be one that finds dependence on God, a sense of humility, acknowledging it is only on God that you depend upon, who knows our future. Our genuine character is clearly seen in the actions that we perform, what others recognize you, and even strangers see, and they glorify you or they acknowledge you. And so the wise man warns us clearly against such kind of self promotion. Yes, we are called to be careful bragging about personal things and accomplishments, only showing arrogance. Daniel 4 is a wonderful example. This Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, known in history as a great builder, his father who started the establishment of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, but it was brought to its great heights, no doubt, by Nebuchadnezzar. But Nebuchadnezzar, as he was walking on the palace roof, viewing the city of Babylon that he has built, he sings praises to himself, his own song of praises for himself, saying, "Is not this great Babylon, which I have built by my mighty power, and as a royal residence, and for the glory of my majesty?" What words of self-exaltation, making all claims to what he has done and accomplished. But at that very same hour, when he spoke these words, God's judgments fell upon him. For he was warned a year before by prophet Daniel in the vision that Nebuchadnezzar himself got, that he should give up his ways of pride, self-exaltation, and acknowledge the God of heaven. As in chapter 2, he was reminded that it is God in heaven who appoints kings and removes kings. It is God who has brought him to rule the kingdom of Babylon. But Nebuchadnezzar, who initially accepted those but his own pride and egoism, resulted in making self-claims, self-praise, and God's judgments fell upon him. Consequently, Nebuchadnezzar, for 7 years, he had to leave his throne as a king and live among the animals in the jungle, lived as an insane human being with the animals. And as God's appointed time, after 7 years were completed, God let reason return to him. And what did Nebuchadnezzar do? Towards the end of chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar looked up to heaven. He glorified God. He praised and honored God who did all things. And thus, reason returned to him. He praised God and he returned back to the throne as God has appointed for him. An example of one who gloried himself and met the consequences. But when he looked to God, knowing that it is God in whose hands the future is, it is God who would set up kings and remove kings, that Nebuchadnezzar once more returned back to his throne, and then he acknowledged that it is the Most High God who rules the kingdoms of men and gives it to whom he will. What a wonderful example, a demonstration to us how we are to be careful in our lives, never to praise yourself, but it is better when a stranger would praise you, one who sees for what you have done. And thus, in praising your goodness, you have to acknowledge God, who is the one who alone is worthy of praise and honor. Be it success or honor that you may receive, it is all to the glory of God and not for yourself. These wonderful lessons that the wise man is teaching us today are invaluable, and following these, you can imagine how your life can be a wonderful blessing, a shining light that God has made of our own humble lives, promoting that our life is one which is dependent upon God. Our life of humility and dependence on God will what produces a genuine character that will stand out for God. May God bless us all to this end, is my prayer for you. Wishing you a happy and blessed day.